in the building.
Yes.
Jon Boi, what's going on, brother?
Double, my G. How are you, mate? It's so good to be here. Like, I am absolutely hyped to be on this podcast.
Yes. Glad to have you on, man. Glad to have you. Before we start, actually, I've got to tell everyone that's listening, Stylus isn't here today because, bless his little cotton socks, he's got tonsillitis. So, hopefully he doesn't mind me telling everyone. No, he doesn't mind. Actually, he's put it out on his Twitter today, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
he posted it on Twitter. So yeah, very special guest all the way from... Where are you right now? You're in Belfast still?
Yes, right now I'm in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where I reside and I operate from, mate, yeah. Mm-hmm. This is it, all the way over here.
The king of Belfast himself.
I'll take that. I will take that. I mean, I'm going to take that all day long. Oh, man. Look, listen, I'm going to be honest, Bo. I'm a massive fan of the podcast. You know this. We've talked about me coming on for a while now. Like, so it's great to finally get this down. You know, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes, sir.
And, yeah, it's dope.
Good to have you on, man. And you know what? It's a real shame, actually, because the job in Belfast at Thompson's with you and obviously with Mark... was my very first cancelled booking in the first lockdown. I think it was meant to be like April the 6th or something. I was meant to be over in Belfast playing with you guys. And it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Mate, listen, you know that as soon as all this passes, you're going to be one of the first names back on the team sheet.
I'm going to be straight on the phone to Mark.
Straight in. But you know yourself, Stylus is a regular too. We love having all the guest DJs over, and as you know, Thompson's is the spot to be whenever everybody.
The spot.
Yeah, it's dope, isn't it? I'm actually really lucky because I'm quite heavily linked with Thompson's. It's like my family, mate. I've been the resident in there for upwards of 10 years.
Right.
So it's I've worked with some of the best DJs and a lot of the best DJs in the world in there, and that's where I've gained a lot of my experience. So and I've got to meet I've been able to sort of put my hand in and recommend DJs, and it was great to have you over last year, mate. Shelled it.
Oh mate, it was so much fun. So much fun. I love playing in different areas as well and seeing the different crowds. And like one of my favourite things about playing in different areas is there's two things. Obviously, like you're not just a resident DJ at the place that I went and played. Me and you have been communicating for years now. I think we must have met the first time at the DJ link up.
I think we met at the first link up whenever it was. It might have been the one in Nando's.
No,
was it
I wasn't invited to that one. Shouts to play. I wasn't invited to that
one. Was it in Red Bull?
Yeah, I think it was the Red Bull Studios one, which I believe was the second one. So,
yes, because I remember you were heavy into your vlogging then.
Yeah.
And you were running around with cameras everywhere.
Sticking them up on the wall and then running somewhere else with one. Yeah.
Yes, that's right, mate. Oh no, since then we've had so many good talks, and since there's some of the stuff I've been through recently, mate. You've been one of my go-to guys, and we've been talking to you just about everything, really. So it's good to have. Just sort of friends across the water.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not that far. I can get to London in less time than it takes for me to get to Dublin.
No way, I mean? Really?
Yeah, but Dublin takes Dublin takes about an hour and 15, an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes, depending if you're driving at the speed limit.
Right.
And if in the flight to London, a flight to London's maybe about 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's really not long, is it? Really?
Yeah, so it's just we're so close, but yet sometimes it seems so far away. And over here, it does seem quite disconnected at times.
Yeah,
but it's all good, mate.
How do you find the music scene in Northern Ireland? Because I was pleasantly surprised.
The music scene over here is, to be honest, mate, I'd say it's thriving. We have quite a few specific nights, as the main ones being in sort of genre specific, and I'm hoping not putting anybody's nose out of joint by saying this, but they sort of do. They're based around Thompson's. They've been the industry sort of, how do you put it? they're like the venue which is stuck straight into the music forever. You know, they've always had their nights based around music. Funkorama and Switch midweek, Wednesday, Thursday are heavily based on, you know, urban sort of hip hop, R&B, dancehall, all those different things since it's branched out. And then at the weekends they're strictly, you know, house, techno, that sort of vibe. You know, there are quite a lot of genre specific nights, and there are quite big crowds that go to them all. You know, so people are generally very clued in to what they listen to, and sometimes, you know, as you know, with the Spotify and, you know, the streaming and stuff now, it's hard to cater to everyone because you know, people don't have one specific, you know, whenever we started, you liked hip hop, or you liked R&B, or you liked whatever, you know. So now you like the facets, the small divisions, and, you know, and you can really, you know, double down on them, mate. So sometimes, you know, it is quite complicated to try and please everybody, but what you find is on the main sort of statement nights during the week, everybody comes really educated, and the requests are pretty bang on, and the general vibe is if it's good music, it's good music. Yeah,
so that's sick. So do you think like a majority of the music taste in Northern Ireland for the average listener and the average people going to the clubs, what's it driven by? Is it driven by Spotify, Apple Music, and all like social media trends, TikTok and all that stuff? Is it like very radio driven or what? Like, where do you think it's coming from?
There are it depends where you go. There are definitely nights that are student based that have quite a lot of would have radio influence. But there would, you know, you do get pockets at every night where certain people are educated in certain, you know, educated more in certain genres, and you do see that in the requests. One of the things I found is with the radio over here, Hicks is one of the main guys at on Cool FM over here, in his evening show, it's pretty upfront as it is. You know, some of the features on different shows are based around maybe the Shazam top 10, or, you know, so what's on the radio is generally relatively upfront. There aren't any real sort of hip hop and stuff specific shows at the minute, but people still manage to get all their would get that from elsewhere, Spotify, Apple Music, and you know, there will be quite a lot of diehard fans who are into a certain artist, and once they have something out, they're on it straight away. You know?
Do you guys get One Extra and Capital Extra out there?
We do, we do. Just you know, whether you're in your car or something like that, but we don't. Just on the normal sort of FM radio, we wouldn't have got we don't get Capital and that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You know, just on DAB.
Just on DAB. That's where we got it, mate. But so as far as Capital goes, Capital wouldn't have as big an audience over here as likes of Radio 1 would, simply for that reason.
So,
you know what I mean, mate?
Also, tell me about, like, in terms of like the DJ driven content. I know there's quite a few DJs over there. Are they all doing like, I'm speaking like it's a proper third world country, you know? It's only Northern Ireland.
It's great. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. At times it does seem like it's a bit disconnected. Because for us, if you drive, just take you, for example, you would maybe not see anything of driving 150, 200 miles sometimes. That's possible for you to drive that for a gig. See, for us, if we drive that in almost every direction, we fall off the edge.
You'll be in the sea.
You know what I mean, mate? So it's the DJ driven content is really based around the DJ community. People talk, you know, a lot of DJs would go to other DJs' nights, and you know, we are quite a tight knit. Whenever we have a guest over, we tend to have a few of the, you know, the regular residents who aren't playing, or even just, we would all sort of, you know, roll together. Which is pretty awesome. I've found actually that having that tight knit and the sort of just because the way it works over here, and I find that I don't mind saying it, that I think we've got there's quite a lot of talent over here. Because everybody listens to each other. it's not like we can go miles and miles and check out loads of different DJs that everybody hasn't necessarily heard before.
Yeah.
You know, because and everybody sort of sees someone doing something and you try it, and then from that they maybe develop it, and then everybody sees them do that. So everybody sort of grows with each other.
Yeah.
And it shows that I think that alone has really helped, the level of DJs over here. I would say, the standard over here is it's quite high, and everybody sort of tries really hard and works hard at it.
I see that in small areas where it's like concentrated areas, brother. And I use Newcastle as an example so often.
Yep.
And like, it's where there's small concentrated areas, small towns or small cities, but they have a DJ community that are cool with each other. They all just seem to be shellers. And like,
that's it.
I haven't
Newcastle
heard
is heavy hitters.
I've only been there. I've only been Northern Ireland twice, and I don't recall hearing a bad DJ. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember being there and thinking, "Oh, this guy's shit." Like, it was always inspiring to hear people play. Like, but yeah, I find out it's about small town areas, man, like, or small city areas. It just seems to be that maybe like the DJ levels and the DJ talent is just up.
I think it's because people sort of go and see each other play.
Yeah.
And from that you get inspired. Mate, like you said there, Newcastle is the perfect example. Mm-hmm. Like that is literally like wall to wall shellers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the cool thing about it is whether you've been playing there for 10 years or you've been playing there for 5 years, the OGs will still go to the gigs of the new guys.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's, that sort of community that's invaluable, mate. It creates a really good vibe just around the DJs, and it helps everybody grow, mate,
Yeah. It's proper sick. It's a shame that in other areas it's like a rivalry thing. I know in London it can be as well.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I stay away from the London scene. I have done for a long time, but my experience there was that, it was very much like dog eat dog, undercutting everyone, just like you get short set. There's like 15 of them booked for a night, but if one of them's late, he's still doing his like 45 minutes, which means everything's late. No regard for anybody else. Like, it's mine, my set. I want to do me. Fuck the rave. Fuck everything else. I just want to do my, like, that was the mentality that was around the scene I was involved in London. And then, so my first time in Newcastle, when I realized, like, what do you mean? What? You're going to his club? And he's cool. Like, and you're friends with him, and you two are going for food before the club, and you're not rivals. Like, yeah, brother, sick. But no, I love to hear that Northern Ireland's like that as well. Is it a Northern Ireland thing, or is it strictly Belfast? Like, what's bad actually? I'm a bit ignorant to the size of Northern Ireland.
Well, mate, it's Northern Ireland it's not that big. I think it's 3 million or something. I think it's 3 million people in Northern Ireland.
Right. Okay.
Or that could be wrong, mate. I'm not too sure of the numbers. I was not prepared for this question. But let's say for talk's sake, there's 1.8 million people in Northern Ireland. It's not big, but all I know is it could fit inside London a load of times, the amount of people. And the thing about it is it's quite spread out, as in where, you're not necessarily driving straight out of there isn't many cities, but you're not driving straight out of one city and you're hitting another one.
Yeah, there's a lot of countryside there, isn't there?
Yeah, you have to go a bit out. So once you sort of, you venture out a wee bit, there would be small connections in there, and there would be small cliques in there. So it does happen. I can only really speak for Belfast, and the fact that whenever I've been doing, which I do quite a lot, I do sort of guest spots at the weekend. I don't really keep any residencies, like weekly residencies at the weekend. I tend to have 4 or 5 monthly residencies at the weekend. Yeah. So I'm going maybe one spot 12 times a year. Mm-hmm. So I'm booked right through it. It seems to work that way, and it works quite well. But in that, I'm sort of, I wouldn't be meeting up with a whole lot of DJs outside of town. There'll be certain places that go where if you go down south, there's a place called Drogheda, there's quite a good wee connection in there, and places, and Dublin, a lot of the DJs would hang out, but it does tend to be more city based. Although once you do move out, all the DJs do tend to know each other. And
Right.
As far as I know, mate, there's not a whole lot of undercutting and stuff goes on, but I'm sure there is some places to some degree, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, it's a great. Like, to be honest, at the minute, it's not great, but once everything goes back to normal, I'm pretty confident that it will. It's going to be a great place to be again.
Yeah. Do you, am I right in thinking that Northern Ireland had more strict lockdown guidelines than the mainland? Because I remember speaking with you about, like, I remember as well, Thompson's got locked off super early, and even when over here things were starting to open up through the summer, I remember Mark saying about how, like, he wasn't able to open again yet, and so it seemed to me like Northern Ireland was really keeping the hatches down.
Well, as far as things go, mate, there hasn't been really. Thompson's has been able to reopen because but not in the club capacity.
Right.
We haven't been able. There hasn't been able to have. I'm not exactly sure what it's like where you have, but we haven't been able to have any music, and any music has to be played under like 80 decibels or something.
Right.
So a lot of places just didn't even see the value in opening. Thompson's did it closed really early.
Right.
Because we are, like I said, mate, it's quite close knit over here, so it needed to be done early over here, and I think the laws and sort of the regulations are similar, but they've just happened over here a bit quicker.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So in theory, we should come out of them a bit earlier.
I might get that booking over there before I get anything back here.
What's it like? What are the regulations there? I mean, just like have you been able to do any gigs?
To be honest, bruv, it's ever changing, man. Like, it's proper. I don't even know what the rule is today. I don't know if I'm allowed. I don't know if I'm allowed to go to the park with my son, or I don't know if I'm not even allowed to answer the door when the doorbell goes and the Amazon delivery comes. I don't even know anymore, bruv. But in terms of club bookings, everything stopped the last week of March, and it was that way until July, I believe. And then I had a booking in July. I had 2 bookings in July and 1 in August, which is all at the same venue in Southampton. Shouts to Shockerbee, my friend that booked me down there. And but that was all like sit down, not me sitting down, I was standing up, but everybody was sat down on picnic benches, and they had to have food, and dancing wasn't allowed, singing wasn't allowed. So we just incorporated bingo into the event, basically, and it turned into a reggae bingo event instead
how did they call bingo? If you're not allowed to shout at them, just wave like crazy.
Oh no, actually, you know what? They didn't. That's a really good point, because they didn't actually restrict anyone shouting bingo. So,
there we go,
and
mate.
the other funny thing was about this venue is there were shishas.
Oh,
So let's see.
I don't know if you can't. People can't see my reaction unless you're watching this right now. But I'm quite shocked.
Yeah, no singing, but yeah, by all means, put your mouth around this, and then pass it to your friends so they can do the same. Like, yeah,
and everyone else can actually see where you're blowing the virus.
Yeah, that's it. Blow the particles up into the air for everyone to see where your strawberry cheesecake flavoured COVID is going. Like, oh mate. But yeah. So I mean, the last one I did was in August.
Right.
And yeah, it's been weird. 'Cause I'm getting to a point now where I'm like, shit, am I even any good anymore? Like,
I've got the, right. This is the way I've been thinking. Right. Now, I've only done 1 gig. And it was I think it was September or something like that. And again, it was the same thing. Everybody had to be seated, and fair play to a lot of venues. They've actually put seats in on the dance floor. You know what I mean? Everybody's put the effort in so they can try and open. But what I've wondered is we haven't played in venues for a year.
Yeah.
This music has evolved a lot in a year, right? So and everybody's still listening to music the same way they did before. How are we supposed to know exactly what's going to bang? You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to hear it. And literally everybody, whenever the club's open, there'll be a date set. Everything will maybe open on, I imagine if everything opens on one night, it would be really interesting to hear what the DJ's even main set would be in different venues, because
100%.
It's going to be everyone's own interpretation of what's been out in the past year. Has actually banged.
Not only that, you've got like what is not so much now, because I'm doing a lot more mixes and stuff now, so I'm actually opening myself up to a lot more new music. But in the first half of this last 12 months, I was just listening to stuff I wanted to hear. And a lot of it was old school stuff. I was cracking out some of the vinyls and just having a little vinyl listening session. Do you know what I mean? And just, I've said this in a previous episode, like I was listening to music for fun again. I removed the job and I was just like, let me put something on that I want to hear. Like, let me just have some fun with it. So, so it was like, going now, I mean, I'm more in touch with it now. I've started getting through the backlog of music that I've downloaded since. But you're right. Coming into the clubs, I mean, Don't Rush, Young T and Bugsy, Don't Rush was a big record March last year. It got even bigger in April and May through the Don't Rush challenge, and then obviously charting in America and all of that stuff. Is it still a big record now? Or if you play it in the club, are people going to be like, oh, bruv, I'm sick. I've heard this song 10,000 times on Instagram. Like, dead it. Get it, like, is it... What's going to happen? Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's literally going to be the case of tracks which we think are going to bang in the club.
Yeah.
We're going to need to take probably quite a few L's.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
The other thing is, though, it could be quite a nice transformation period. And by that, what I mean is, this could be the time where the DJs reclaim the clubs. Meaning... Correct. I have an attitude towards music, is I do not play songs I don't like. Like, I don't care. They could be the biggest song in the world. If I don't like it, you're not hearing it in my club set. Simple as. And that, to some people, would be like, I'm taking the L on a club night. If everyone wants to hear it and I'm not playing it, that's an L for me. But coming out of this, if I just play... I mean, I'm not talking about running through all the Reasonable Doubt album cuts and playing, you know, 2001 album from front to back and all of this stuff. Like... I'm not talking about doing that in the club, but if I come back to the club sets and play the songs that I want to hear, and if every other DJ is doing that, there'll be a really nice variation of what you can hear in different nights. Awesome. And all the DJs are reclaiming their own flavour. And it means like, I believe it will help DJs create their club following again. And it will be more. It will be less about like which DJs have got the Instagram followers, and more about which DJs have a decent taste in music. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
well, mate, I see the fact. Let's go back to the fact that you only play what you love or what you like. See that? Listen, yes, I've laughed a few times about that whenever you guys have talked about it before. But the reality is, mate, that's cool, because for me. You know, I don't know, I'm not speaking for every DJ, but there are times whenever I would play stuff, you know, within reason, if it's gonna work. Mm-hmm. And after a while, it made me only listen to music, not necessarily, and I wasn't picking it because I loved it. I was picking it because I thought it would work.
Right.
And then eventually it became clouded. Am I picking this because I love it, or am I picking it, you know? So eventually I was listening to music for a reason,
right?
Objectively, to try and find stuff that's going to work. And it really took away the joy of listening to it. Put it this way, there's times whenever I haven't listened to music, apart from whenever I'm downloading it, for ages, just because I'm spending so much time listening to new music, trying to pick out stuff which I think's going to work. To me, what I like goes out the window. You know, what I actually like and what I'm interested in, sort of, it takes a back seat. But since the lockdowns and all have come back, I've really, you know, especially since the second lockdown, mate, I really got back into the stuff which I started listening to, like you said, mate, and it's been great, you know. Shout out to Volatile, mate. His the switch mixes, or they sort of got me through the start of the, you know, a real difficult time for me there, and
yeah,
just listening to all the old nice soul and R&B vibes, you know, that's what I loved, and you know, you used to dig high and low to try and find it, mate, like you said, you know, and then you know, it became eventually, whenever stuff started coming to your fingertips with awesome sites, you know, like DJ City and stuff, I actually just focused on DJ City,
right?
And you know, as opposed to maybe trying to look elsewhere as much,
yeah.
You know. But now I've got that back. I mean, I'm listening to old albums. I'm listening to full albums. I'm finding tracks which are from them, and you know, I'm not necessarily skim listening anymore to stuff. Which is it's a great place to be, you know, because you actually do start to. I was listening to music for the reason that I started listening to music.
Yeah, that's, you know what, that's a really good point, and I think that's something that a lot of DJs should do. And I'm not saying completely take away from the record pools, because as I've said a billion times, I think they're an amazing place, and I think what they do is great.
Unbelievable.
But you just hit the nail on the head by, you still get music from there, but you're searching for the other little gems everywhere else. And a great analogy for that is basically like, use the record pools for your main ingredients, and then just get the other bits you like. That's just the seasoning. Just put that on top. Do you know what I mean?
Spices.
Like, exactly that. You don't want too much of it because no one likes it too spicy, but you just put it over. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just put it over the top. That is so good. Just add your flavour to everything else, and that is what I'm talking about DJs reclaiming their sets in the clubs and adding their personalities to the set as well. I think it's so important. Even if, like, I might find a song and think, you know what, I really like this song, but I'll play it in the club. No one's really fucking with it. And so you just play, you know, the sandwich technique, innit? Play a good song, play your song, then you play another good song after to make sure, sure you get them back. That's tried and tested. Everyone knows about that. So, but that's what 100%. I do. That's what I do with this new music. And it allows me to enjoy what I'm doing. Two songs that I might have heard 1,000 times this year, and then a song in the middle that I'm really messing with, just to add the enjoyment.
Let's just play it for a certain length of time that doesn't give everybody long enough to leave the dance floor.
Exactly, but it gives them long enough for them to know, like, okay, cool, this is I don't know this song, what is it? Or like, they might get their Shazam out. Some people even come and ask, like, what is this tune? Like, da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? Other times they don't. Amazing. Other times it doesn't work, and they do leave quick.
Straight off. But again, then if you play that next week, people who were there the week before, they recognize it, and they sort of they assume that it's becoming something, and that's how you're starting to, that's how you're becoming a tastemaker.
It's really funny because I have two very distinct memories of absolutely clearing dance floors. The first time I was playing in a small R&B room in the top floor of a club called the Function Rooms in Eastbourne.
Right.
And the club was called, the part of the club was called the Penthouse. So it was like a small R&B room right in the top floor. And I remember playing T2 Heartbroken for the very first time. Not the first time ever, but there wasn't really anyone in the town doing urban nights, so it was probably the first time it got played in the town. I remember playing T2 Heartbroken, and I actually tapped my friend, and I was like, watch what happens when I drop this tune. It's gonna go sick. And I played it, and everybody except the bar staff left the room. Brother, I'm shit you not, there's probably 150 people in the room, and they left pronto. Like, left, gone.
Ouch.
And then a month later, have you got that new T2 song? And do you know what the other one I did that with? I didn't empty the room, but I emptied the dance floor, and it proper deaded the night. Drake, One Dance.
Right.
I played it, I'm like, I must have played it maybe the day it dropped or something, because it became quite a big song quite quickly. But yeah, I remember it was my Monday night residency, same town again, funnily enough, Eastbourne. And I dropped it in my Monday night residency there, and it deaded the place.
Oh, man.
Dead, absolutely dead.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, I've never done that before. My dance floors are always mental. No, I'm only joking. I said my dance floors are. I said I've never experienced that. I always just shell all the time.
Yes.
No.
No, you've got the techers though, bruv. I've seen it.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate that. But again, it's just we just keep practicing. And see, now that's a great thing about this lockdown. I've actually practiced.
Oh, you have? Yeah, we were talking about this with CJ Beats not that long ago. Practice hours.
Yes. Yeah, practice and putting time in. It's just going back to what you said there. I can't remember any specific times, but whenever you hear a song or you hear a song and you think, right, this is gonna be the one.
This is the one.
I cannot wait. You look forward to playing it, and you actually sort of strategically fit it in, so you think this is gonna work, and all that hard work doesn't pay off.
No,
it's just you're just like, oh my goodness, am I in the right job here?
Yeah.
Am I thinking about this right?
The worst one about the Drake one, the T2 one wasn't. No, the T2 one was bad actually. I was going to say it wasn't as bad. Two different circumstances. The difference with the T2 one is I wasn't on the mic. I'd never used the mic those times.
Okay.
And I only said it to my friend. I was like, yeah, look what this does. Boom. And he was and it killed the problem with the Drake one,
Flatline.
I was gassing it. Brand new Drake. Check this out. It's going to be the biggest song on the planet. It's brand new Drake. Played it. And literally like, everyone was like, what the fuck is this?
What's this remix of Crazy Cousins?
Yeah, basically. But at the same time, it was a student night as well. So it was an age group that weren't even old enough to have the nostalgia of the Crazy Cousins tune with Kyla.
Right.
So it wasn't even like, oh, sick, I know this one. It was kind of like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, we don't know this.
Because I feel like as well, around that time, there wasn't a lot of other songs with that drum pattern that had that kind of dance hall summer sound to it. Like that was a real trendsetter, that song. There was a lot of songs after that followed with a similar style.
Every song after that.
Yeah. But I feel at the time, it literally was, you get certain songs that are massive, and one of the reasons they're massive is because they fit with the other massive songs right now. Yep. BPM wise or style, or it might be the same artist, and they just fit in the set. I feel like this one didn't fit in the set sonically. One Dance.
Right, okay.
So if I remember rightly, it was a bit of a wild card in terms of it would switch the mood because it was that upbeat kind of dancehall type vibe, but it wasn't dancehall enough to throw into a dancehall set yet. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. No, I get you.
But
and that's what you're a dancehall DJ, right?
Well, yes, no.
You were sort of,
There was a stage, there was a period where I was very, very heavy into dancehall music, and hip hop wasn't really doing it for me that much. So I kind of. Yeah, I guess there was a stage where you could say I was a dancehall DJ because I wasn't taking hip-hop sets because I didn't really like hip-hop at the time, and I was getting booked for strictly bashment nights.
Nice.
So, and it even I was lucky, I got to a stage where I was getting booked as the main DJ for the bashment sets as well. So like, that was pretty sick. And I went to Jamaica and recorded a mixtape out there in a studio with some artists and stuff out there, which was sick.
That's about the idea of a bashment rave is something which has never happened here.
Which is funny because when I remember I got booked for Dublin once, and I was so surprised because when I said shouts to DJ Wax and DJ, do you know Wax and
yes,
Ahmed?
Yes, I know Wax and Ahmed. Yeah, Frank Jazz.
Who? Sorry,
Frank Jazz.
No, you know what? I don't think I met Frank Jazz at the time. It was only Wax and Ahmed are the two that I met, and they were the guys that booked me. And I remember having the conversation with them, and they were like, make sure your Afro beats and your bashment are on point. And I'm like, I've never been to Dublin at this point. And I'm just thinking like, are you sure? Like, do you mean that? And I'm thinking in my head, I was wondering like, does he mean Kevin Little and Serrano No Games bashment? Like, is this where he's going? Like, is it going to be like Diwali rhythm and buzz rhythm, like Sean Paul, give me the light type bashment.
Yeah.
Or are we going in? And then, bruv, when I got there, I was so surprised that it was a predominantly black night, given that I'd never been to Dublin before. And the other thing was I was meeting black people that had Irish accents. And it baffled me that there was any kind of Afrobeat or bashment scene over there, bro. It caught me off guard. But I was speaking to one of the girls out there actually, and what I didn't realise is there's a huge Congolese, I don't know if you can't call it like a settlement, but do you know what I mean? There's a lot of Congolese and Ghanaian immigrants in Dublin. And they've had children now, and the kids are now Irish.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because I do, now you've said Wax and Ahmed, and even like eBay and stuff. I know that they do well. Or they used to run, and Tando as well. They run serious bashment nights. It's just something which is never. Now we've had, I think, like the video and stuff have actually done random. I think the video and there's been a couple of different artists coming over and doing smaller gigs, right? As far as I know, in Northern Ireland, but they have been quite small, and it hasn't. I haven't actually been to any, but I would love now to run something like that, because what I was wanting to know, mate, as well, just one thing is, see, whenever it comes to getting dancehall, reggae, Afro beats and stuff like that, it's not as made as, only maybe a wee bit now it is, but up until recently it's been almost quite difficult to get a hold of if you're going from the normal. Do you know what I mean? If you're going down the DJ City route on a couple of, you do need to delve a bit deeper to get a hold of it. So
100%.
And because of that, it's not that it doesn't work. It really does work over here, but there just hasn't been as much of it played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It kind of comes hand in hand. Like, I feel like, because I don't know if there was many Caribbeans at the night I went to. I know there was a lot, like I said, a lot of Ghanaians and a lot of Congolese. And so, like, that's why the Afrobeats was such, like, a huge part of the night. And I remember the Afrobeat set that I did was, like, the biggest part of the night. It was amazing. And just because I didn't expect it. Them ones where I went to the gig expecting to be playing Serrani and Kevin Little and all of this, like, real bait stuff, but ended up going deep with Afrobeats, and it was, like, absolutely amazing. But I feel like that's probably to do with the heritage as well, and the culture that they've brought with them. And maybe in the house, their parents might be listening to a lot of African music, so in turn they were listening to it. Whereas it's different. Like, I feel like Belfast, it's definitely a predominantly white area. I don't remember seeing like many Jamaicans and stuff. So
no, it would be predominantly white, but it is still quite integrated when it comes to certain nights. But all the crowds are very mixed. Mm-hmm. There wouldn't be really any predominantly. Well, there would be. There's a couple of sort of predominantly like black nights, right? And they're but they're not. To be honest, it's more they're not the venues which I'm doing, So
right, yeah.
And unfortunately, I haven't even been able to go. And like you said, mate, I would absolutely love it to go to a dance hall. Like I said, I would love to go to a dance hall, a dance hall or bashment night. It just happens to be that in the venues where I'm playing, it doesn't roll like that.
Yeah. Well, you find that, don't you? Like, I find it over here, especially. Like, there's some venues where a pure bashment night would work, and like the place would be absolutely rammed, and it would be amazing. Take the exact same promoters, exact same music policy, exact same branding and everything, same town, put it in a different venue.
That's it.
That venue, it might not work. It just might not. Like, there's just certain factors, it just might not work. So
yeah, mate, that's it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a funny thing, man. Like, but yeah, it was an interesting time, actually. I really did enjoy the time I spent where I was just doing bashment sets. It was good. I really did enjoy it. But I opened up again and started doing more open format nights, and then kind of found my hip hop roots again. Hip hop started getting good again.
Mate, what I actually found was, in one of the first venues that I got a gig in, it was called Box. I sort of did. I was pigeonholed,
right,
so to speak, back then. Because like I said, you were talking 10 years ago or something. You did play one genre whenever you just started, because that was the only. It's not like you could buy a few vinyls or a few different vinyl from all different genres and have a set. You couldn't. You had to double down, and so sort of excuse upon me or name and all, but you had to literally double down on one genre. And from that, I was only playing hip hop, R&B nights. That was what I was coming out as. And then I think it must have been probably about 10 years ago, whenever you started realizing that you could slot in different genres in from that there. And that's whenever open format was sort of born, or being in and around that time. And that was that was one of my favorite times, mate, whenever you're able to throw everything into you can't now, you can do it now, but figuring that out, I found so exciting. And so interesting, and realizing, for the first time, that you can play something at 140 and then drop down to 70.
Yeah.
Or, whenever you, and it was mind-boggling to some people, because you normally, what happened was you started at one BPM and you finished at another one. Normally a lot quicker.
Just smoothly, you just go through. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and then whenever things started moving up and down, and even the introduction of transition tracks, everything's moved so quickly in a short space of time. If you think about it, and oh man, just see how the whole game has evolved from whenever intros to a track weren't a thing. You couldn't mix it. There was no DJ intros. Yeah. Now they're available, and you can spend
with
time doing all
with that said, though, I've always remembered DJ intros. I don't know what it was like in Belfast, but we had in our local record stores there was a series called Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon
on vinyl. Do you remember them?
Yep, I do indeed.
They were the intro versions because they had 8-bar instrumentals. That was the whole point of them. They had 8-bar instrumentals, and then they dropped in. So they were the intro and outro versions of the tracks. It wasn't just Lethal Weapon either. There was a bag of there was loads. I know
there was like Street Heat and I remember there was like Fill in the Gap and stuff like that. But they didn't get sold over here.
Right.
The first any record shops over here, they sold. They were predominantly based around dance music, unless it was HMV or Virgin mega stores where they did the 3 for a tenner and that sort of thing. And then, so how I first came about DJ City and where I bought my first Fill in the Gap or Lethal Weapon was from the record shop in LA. I used to import them over.
Right.
From whenever it was just a record store, and it took ages, but whenever they arrived, it was worth it because you had this heat that nobody else had. Because it wasn't sold here. So that was good. And to be honest, I hadn't even thought about it right enough that they did have intros. Yeah. But even just those days whenever you didn't have an intro and then intros came along and. Well, for my experience anyway, just that was the most creative times, mate. Yeah. And I'm actually looking forward to getting back into venues again and trying again this blank slate. And like you said, everybody's going to be trying different things. And if you've been listening to music like I have, music tastes have probably changed a bit.
Definitely.
Massively. Especially my own. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm downloading now is probably quite a bit different than I was downloading a year ago.
Right, yeah.
It's mad to think it's been a year, isn't it?
Bro, it's not far off. It's like 307 days now or something. Not that I'm counting, but yeah. I've got like a tally on my bedroom wall.
On the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, it's going to be... I'm looking forward to the next time you get back over. That'll be good to get you. You know what, mate? One thing I'm missing more than anything is the
me?
Social. It's the what?
Oh, me. I thought you said me. You're missing me more than anything.
No, not you're second. No, one thing the thing I'm missing most is like the social interaction.
Yeah.
With, going into the club and saying hello to the same person who's setting up the bar, who's always setting up the bar, just having that, shouting something across to someone, having that, the personal contact. Not, that's one thing that I was missing. I'm missing quite a lot, and trying to get them. It's been hard. It has been hard at times, and I know over here there's a lot of DJs have been feeling a downturn in their motivation. Well, rightly so, you know what I mean? There hasn't been any outlet. So I've started a wee thing to try. I've started a podcast show to try and get. I'm gonna start trying to bring all DJs together and getting them actually a reason to put out specific exclusive material and give someone to work towards stuff. I think that's been lacking for a while.
Yeah, this is a sick idea. Talk some more on your podcast. So I noticed last year sometime you started the podcast. And you were doing it as like, it's basically a radio show format, isn't it? Where you're just playing music, a little bit of talk and...
It is, mate. It's literally, this will actually tie into, what we could maybe talk about. What happened, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I've never actually had up until recently, I've never really had the motivation to do this. Because... Well, to be honest, I don't mind saying it here. For anybody who's listening to the podcast up until now, may not have known or may, but up until recently, I've been a pretty heavy drug addict.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But I've had a quite high drug dependency, and for a lot of years, whether it's been drink or drugs included. And whenever the first lockdown, I smashed myself to bits over the first lockdown. I was, my drug of choice was, I don't mind saying it, was cocaine.
Right.
And so I was using it for years, and along with drinking and stuff like this, and things sort of spiraled a wee bit out of control. In fact, to be honest, it was probably out of control for longer than I care to admit.
Right.
But the first lockdown, no work, all this really just accentuated the whole thing, and it really blew up. So this is just a bit of a backstory, by the way. I then it got to a point where I realized that, man, I was just really, I wasn't happy, and I was pretty unwell. I was, addiction. I'm an addict now still, I'm a recovered addict, but it'll be with me. And how things are, I decided, I went to rehab. Actually, I thought I've had enough of this. And I probably up until that point have said I've had enough of this every other day.
Right.
But something changed in me, and I was like, I was given the opportunity to go to rehab. So I went to Worthing, and I stayed there for 4 weeks and done a full detox and rehab program. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I say it right now. It was quite expensive, but it needed to be done.
Right.
And it is available. If anybody who's listening and anybody who's been in these situations, feel free to contact Double or Stylist, and he'll put you in contact with me, and I can give you all the information you need to know about this. These treatment centers. I went there and I came out, and it changed my life completely, mate.
Right.
So I was able to stay sober, from then, and I felt like mental health is a really, really risky, really, really sort of, it's not risky at all. It's actually, it's really, really talked about now, but it's still only talked about to a certain extent, the whole everybody talking to each other and saying, oh, look after your friends. It's okay to not be okay. Big boys cry too, all this sort of stuff. That's all great. But whenever it comes down to it, it's got to the point where it still is. We've heard it that many times, it brushes over everybody quite a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So we've heard it's okay not to be okay so many times. Everybody is, unfortunately now, suicide's quite high. Well, for a time over here, it was really high, and we had the highest numbers in Europe and stuff like that, So it touched quite a lot of people's lives over here, and I think now it's went a wee bit into the back burner, and at the risk of sounding like a dick here, I'm not, but I know that sometimes whenever you hear people talking about mental health, it could be now seen as, oh, this again. You know,
No, definitely, bro. I feel like it's such a taboo thing, and people. Me and Stylus did an episode about anxiety and depression.
That was awesome.
It was very early on in the days of the podcast, and it's something we're going to revisit actually. But we both have been through it in some level, some way, shape, or form. And before I had anxiety and before I suffered with it, it was just a thing that I just heard people, I've got anxiety. What are you scared of? Like, why are you worried about what? Well, I didn't understand it. So for people that have never had any form of mental illness or had any kind of wavering, there's some very, very headstrong people out there that have never and probably never will suffer from it. Depression, anxiety, any of the other ones, do you know what I mean? And it's like, if you don't have it and if you've never had it, you possibly won't understand.
Yeah,
because it's crazy.
That person you've just described is who people who suffer from it try to look like they are. You know?
Precisely. You know? Yeah, exactly. You know, and I feel like it's the ones. Again, I know exactly what you're saying with this, because it's those kind of people that are putting the message out saying it's okay to not be okay. And it's like, well, it's cool for you to say it, bruv, because like you're, do you know what I mean? Like you're saying you just posted a picture on Instagram in front of your brand new Porsche, and the caption is "It's okay to not be okay." What the fuck has that got to do with anything? Like,
well, that's like, it, you know, and it does. What I found was, I've done loads of counselling in Dublin. I'm just rolling it out here to you. I mean, I've done a load of counselling and stuff, and the kind, you know, with numerous different counsellors, and the counsellor which I was able to, you know, the one that I related to the most was the person who I got the most from. Right. You know, so I was then, because we were saying about the podcast, I was able to stay sober and have been able to stay sober through just community, through talking to people. I do AA, I do CA meetings, you know, Cocaine Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and stuff to try and, you know, I'm not ashamed to talk about it, you know, because I've actually done something about my issues and I've been able to go ahead and so I thought, you know, I love music. Mm-hmm. You know, I would love to do a podcast. We're going into a second lockdown here. You know, could be a time for me to do this. So I started the podcast, mate, and the podcast was pretty much me playing a few tunes that I love, you know, playing a few tracks that I love, doing a mix at the end of the show. I do, you know, because everybody likes a mixture of, I'm really up on new music. So the show is pretty much heavy on new music, but there's a couple of throwback tracks in, you know, selected by listeners and stuff like that. And then at the end, there's a mix. And in the middle, I try and get a message across. Yeah. And the way I'm putting the message across is just through my experience, you know. And what I do is I talk about what I've done this week, what small wins I had, how I handled things. Because what I've realized is, mate, there's a lot of pressure put on a lot of people to do well in the long run, or to set up long-term goals. You know, people are saying, you know, especially at the start of the year, people are saying, right, goals, what are you going to do in 2021? All this is going to be big. You know, that's automatically massive pressure on a lot of people to really succeed in 2021 because 2020 was so shit. Now, that's setting quite a lot of people up for a fall. And what people need to realize is, as soon as you start to set really, really big goals, it becomes unmanageable. So, like, for example, if I was to say, I'm going to stay sober for 6 months. This is an addict, drugs, alcohol. I'm just an addict, mate. And if I'm to say, I'm going to stay sober for 6 months, my brain's telling me, no, you're not.
It's not going to happen.
You're going. That's not going to happen. So why, you know? Then on the other side of the coin, it then says, look, that's not going to happen. So there's no point. You may as well stop now. Right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you go one day at a time, and mate, I'm literally just on that podcast. I just talk about, like, have I had a good day? Have I had a bad day? I've talked about things like, you know, I lost my granddad last year at the end of the year, and to be honest, that was something which I probably wouldn't have talked about to anybody, but I've now got this platform where I'm just, you know what, mate, see if people, a lot of people would listen, a lot of people tell me that they like it, a lot of people they respect, you know what, mate, it's see, to be honest, it's not necessarily for that. I need to, you know, if I'm on my journey, mate, you know what I mean, and I'm doing my own thing, and if, you know, it's about creating a bit of hope, and I learned that hope is from hearing other people's experiences. That's 100%. What I heard. Whatever.
I was about to say the same thing. That whole creating hope thing, man, is like, especially as DJs and as people, like, we're the people that create the party. And what people don't see with our job is the grind and the graft and all the hard work and the downs that come with that 2 or 3 hours in the club where we're turning everything up. So in a lot of cases, we're looked at as people, especially the even more successful DJs, you know, like the top tier guys. We're all DJs, I feel like, are looked at as people that are just living their best life. We are just partying all the time. Even in lockdowns, it doesn't matter. We're doing live streams, we're doing mixes, we're doing video, like we're doing all this cool shit while everyone else is depressed. But I feel like being open about this actually means your audience can hear and be like, oh shit, well, cool, Jon Boi is playing some dope music and he is having fun, but at the same time, he is actually battling something as well. So am I. That's cool. Yeah. We can relate. Like, I feel better about myself now because I'm listening to someone who's really winning, but he's got a struggle as well. Do you know what I mean? Like that to me is invaluable, especially now, right now. Like, that's so important.
It's what you said is, you know, and that's the joy and the beauty of this podcast, mate. You and Stylo come on and you bring on guests and you talk to them as if they're sitting right beside you, and you talk like dudes, like men. Yeah. And you talk about stuff, you know, and you're allowed to say you feel this way about something, you feel this way about something, and see that this podcast has helped probably so many DJs. Like, I remember just wee things, like even whenever you mentioned the sandwich technique. You know, whenever I first heard that on this podcast, I was like, yes, other people do that. And it's about realizing that, see, talking about things, you know, it's okay to be, you know, what I realized after coming out of rehab and admitting that I was there, it's pretty cool to be vulnerable, mate. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't need to be this macho dude all the time, because realistically, it's not realistic. Yeah. and all it does is really, you know, what I really wanted to say, especially on this podcast, is all the DJs listening will understand that there is so much of our job based around people pleasing. You know, you know, your job is to please other people, and you know your job. You know, so whether you're talking to a promoter, whether you're talking to another DJ, whether you're talking to a club manager, you know, a lot of your own values and a lot of your own opinions sometimes do get put to the side, and you know, you can end up, if you're anything like me, there's times whenever I've found myself that I've got 100 masks, mate, what I'm wearing for each different person I'm talking to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it does, and that sort of, it's almost expected of DJs. And one of the things is, you know, like you said about big touring DJs and stuff, man, I've done a bit of touring, not a whole lot, but it's lonely. This is lonely. You know what I mean? The hours you keep, you know what I mean? You know this, and even just, you know, like you've talked about before, you turn the club up. You have a great time. Everybody shakes your hand. Everybody, you know, you get the praise, you get the stack, and then you get into the car and nothing like that. It doesn't even matter. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? As
soon as that car door shuts, you're back on your own. You're in your box again.
That's it.
And especially, like, this is another thing. I don't know how many other DJs actually do this when they're active. Obviously not right now, but the amount of times I've slept in the car as well, bruv.
You see,
I think 2019, I probably slept in my car as much as in my own bed.
That's mental.
And I'm not like, that's not even a wild thing to say to me. That's like, yeah, it probably was.
I remember you were doing distances for your residencies every week. Yeah, you know what I mean? Proper. And because at the same time, you were editing every day, trying to do a vlog.
That daily vlogging journey was fun, but I stopped because it stopped getting fun. Do you know what I mean? It got to a point where it was like, oh, fuck this. I cannot be bothered to do another one today. And so it was just like, if that's my attitude towards it, it's not going to be good quality. And so I know they say like they say consistency is key, and maybe if I'd kept it up for another 10 days, I might have had the one that blew up, and I might have the whole channel could have gone to 1 billion views. But bruv, at what cost? At the cost of...
that's the thing, and like you said, mate, you know what's going on. The likelihood of you producing your best content whenever you're not at 100% is, you know what I mean? It's not as likely as, you know, you would like. Well, in fairness, you know, sometimes people do put stuff out, and maybe their heart isn't in it, but it does break. You know, it does break. But at the same time, then they have to keep it up.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse that for me, I would say there's very few things worse than having to do something you don't like doing.
Yeah,
like having to do a job, having to do any kind of task. I built everything around my day-to-day life, COVID not included, everything about normal life I've built because it's all things that I like to do. There's not one thing in normal life that I do that I don't want to do. Not one thing.
That's
actually, no, I tell a lie. Sleeping in my car, I don't want to do, but it is a necessity. But apart from sleeping in my car, everything else.
You see, and see, you saying the likes of that, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we are lucky.
Oh yeah,
you know
100%.
You know what I mean? We're lucky we can do that. As far as you saying doing things you don't want to do, there is times, especially whenever I was an active addiction, that I didn't want to do a whole lot, mate. You know, and I think what I was saying to you earlier, I'm on the podcast. I'm now starting a new show. It's going to be every Monday, and the idea is to get aimed at DJs to start getting them to produce exclusive mixes so that it gives people something to work for. I want them to play exactly what they like, not what they feel they have to play. You know, not there. And I've emphasized that I don't need to like it. It's what you like. Make something for me that you like, and I'll put it out. And you know what, mate? It's just a try, because the wheels need to start moving again sometime. It's gonna, you know, 100%. And everything's ground to a pretty sturdy halt there, and you know, people need to start getting back into it again, because you know yourself. We do need to start getting our minds back into the way of thinking that are we going to be any good when we go back? You know?
That's the thing. Yeah. So I need to make sure that I'm actually good at this when I get back into it.
Have you been doing any practicing?
I wouldn't really say practice as such, because I've done nothing that would be transferable to like a club set, for example. Okay. But I have kept the rust off by doing weekly mixes.
Right. Okay.
So
well, fair enough, mate. Yeah. The thing is you see, what I find is anything which I'm doing, I'll be recording, and it's not a specific practice.
Yeah.
Although I know, and I should do more of it, because whenever you do sit and have a practice session, it's worth probably 10 of those sessions where you've actually been trying to record something.
Oh,
you know,
actually
trying to work on like a tight scratch, or trying to figure, you know, it actually brings you back to the fun part.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you saying about this time with a lot of DJs being kind of demotivated and not a lot going on. And just like, losing all motivation and drive to kind of do anything. I was chatting with a DJ earlier in the week, or late last week, I should say, because it's Monday, so it can't be any earlier in the week. I was chatting with a DJ last week, a friend of mine, and he was kind of basically saying that he's been very inactive during this whole thing. Since March last year, or April last year, he's not done a single thing. And I just said to him, I was like, just turn the decks on and just play. Just go and jam, like it's your bedroom when you first started out. Just pick some tunes. Don't even record it. Don't worry about Instagram. Don't stream. Do nothing. Just you and the decks. Just have a jam. Literally, just pick up and play. Go. And I think like for any DJs that are listening and they're like, oh, I'm struggling, I can't get motivated, I don't know whether to do mixes, I can't do live streams, don't even worry about any of that stuff. Don't worry about anyone else hearing it. Just turn on and go and see what happens. And because what they might do is they'll go through tunes. They might start finding some tunes that they remember made them fall in love with DJing. And it's just that one tiny thing might inspire them to be like, oh, sick, you know what? I'm going to do a throwback mix of all of my favourite things. And that might be the one thing that suddenly they blow up off.
Mate, that's...
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, mate. Exactly. See that exact thing. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier. Whenever I was going through all the madness and getting better and stuff, I was listening to Volatile's Valentine's mixes because he had sent me the bundle of all of them, and I listened to them start to finish, you know, all of them, and it really brought me the love for the soulful sound and stuff back again. And like you said, mate, even from just listening to that, I was making crates of throwback mixes that I would love to do. And there
you go.
And like you said, mate, see that if you just turn your decks on, don't worry about even letting anybody know you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just actually, you know, I'll be honest, that's not something which I've done recently. Mm-hmm. You know, the last time I would have did that sort of would have been a couple of months back, whenever I was digging through I dug out all my vinyl.
Yeah.
And I was doing that, and I was listening to the certain B-sides or remixes that I had on tracks, and I was going, this is what it's about. You know, this is what... This is, you know, I can understand why I travelled to a shop. I had to get the bus or the train to get somewhere to listen to this for the first time. I can understand why I did that. And but there's that, you know, there's a lot to be said in just actually doing a mix without having it in the back of your mind that you're going to put it on Facebook.
Yeah, just doing a mix with no audience in mind.
Yeah,
and that just physically the actual time you are doing the mix. Because I know this, because I did it a couple of times early in the first lockdown. Just like I say, dug out some of my vinyl, and I was just having a little listen, having a little mix, and no one else was there. I didn't Instagram about it. I didn't tweet about it. I think this is probably only the second time I'm even speaking about it on the podcast. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, It was just me and the music that I fell in love with. And that was, bruv, it was so much fun. And that was around my slump time when I was kind of over the fact that I'd had time off. Because the first 3 weeks of lockdown was amazing, bruv.
Yeah, it was class.
Bruv, I had time off. I was forced. I'm a workaholic, and I was forced to have time off. So I'm like, cool, let's just chill. But then after the 3 weeks, after that little honeymoon period, I was like, shit, I need to be out there again.
Yeah.
And like, I hit a bit of a slump, and it was in that slump time when I turned the decks on, played with some vinyl, and yeah, it was amazing, man.
Well, it's like you said, I mean, it's pretty much, that's the reason, that's what it is that we fell in love with.
Yeah.
The fact that it then became our job, and responsibility came with it, is a lot of fun, and it creates, you know, it's, you know, obviously that's made us into the DJ that we are now.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it should be simple enough. If you feel like sometimes it feels like it's like work, make it not like work for a while.
Yeah.
You know, try and spend, you know, see, to be honest, mate, the amount of time that I've spent watching films, watching Netflix, I'll go back to it again, getting absolutely wrecked. You know, I should be able to dedicate a fraction of that to the thing which actually makes me the happiest.
Yeah, definitely. Even if it's just half an hour a day. What's that one episode of The Mandalorian? That's what that is.
Yeah, that's it. So, you know, but there is an initial barrier there. You know what you need to break down sometimes, and mate, that's it. So, Dubs, what are you working on at the minute? Tell me.
To be honest, the YouTube stuff for me, getting the channel popping, the weekly mixes to keep the rust off, and I kind of want to build up the Mixcloud profile, And the main focus really is this podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, just getting this podcast out there, getting the audience growing. And obviously from last year, we started getting way more and more guests on and different stories and tackling different topics and stuff. And obviously, like, you'll know from our conversations setting this one up that your story, I feel, is a very, very important story.
Yeah.
And it's not... Let me try and think about this. It's quite a common story, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to take away from your story, but what I mean is like the alcoholism with DJing, getting drunk and DJing is just a thing for many, many people. And in some scenes as well, the drug abuse comes with it as well. Taking drugs and DJing comes hand in hand.
Well, you see, the thing is, mate, is what you have to realize is, see, whenever you can drink, whenever you're going to work, there's no time that you can't drink.
You know, basically, if you can drink at work, when can you not drink?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not against drink or drugs. Well, I'm against it for me, because for me the way it works is one's too many or a thousand's never enough. Once I have one, I'm off to the races.
Right.
And you know, and there's a lot of calamity around that. You know, there's a lot of collateral damage. But you know, I've spent so many years having a drink when I'm DJing. I mean, it just happens. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then if you're going somewhere out, especially whenever you can drink, and a lot of the time the drink's free, and do you know what I mean? It just comes, and I would imagine. Again, I don't know. I can only speak for myself, but I would imagine there's quite a lot of DJs out there. You know, some that don't listen, but even though every DJ does listen to this, so there's probably a lot of people listening right now who experiences, and they're
Thousands.
Millions.
There's millions. But yeah, no, I know, like, I know where you're going with it. There's people that listen to it and will think, actually, I drink every set.
Yeah, and it's a normal thing, and just let me put it a wee bit into context, right? One of the hardest, again, I'm no saint or whatever, but one of the hardest things for me was, and it was the thing that maybe the most emotional going when I was going through rehab and stuff, was the fact, you know, it all bubbled to the surface that the thing which I loved, right, playing music and DJing, towards the end, I sort of thought, is it the DJing and stuff which is actually making me do what I'm doing, is drink too much and take drugs, right?
Right.
I was thinking, right, am I gonna need to quit DJing? That was my last chance saloon. So I tried everything before that, the council and stuff, and then eventually I went to rehab, and I didn't have to quit DJing because lockdown all came in.
Right. Okay.
So what the thing, but the damage for me was, when it comes to my family and my missus and stuff, was already done. I see. It took all the lockdowns to happen for me to realize that it wasn't actually DJing that was making me drink loads and use loads of drugs, because I still did it whenever we were in lockdown.
Did it get worse?
Yeah, it did. It got worse because I had more time to.
I was gonna say, like, maybe a boredom thing, and just sat at home and.
That's it, mate. And you're sitting with your thoughts, and you know, the thing which really, really sort of crushed me was the fact that my whole family and my missus and a lot of my friends all actually resented DJing. They resented me DJing, because they thought that it was, you know, it was doing all this damage to me.
Right.
Yet whenever I found out it wasn't, so even the thought of, like, whenever things go back to normal again, it's gonna be a bit, like, there's still gonna be a bit of fear, a bit of resentment from the family, and because they still probably see them going relatively hand in hand.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So that was one of the hardest things for me, mate, because I'm now having now they realize, they understand what, you know, everything that happens and why it all happened for me and stuff. But you know, a lot of people, you know, what you don't realize is a lot of people, you know, they see you and they think you're just going to have a good time, and they're like, oh, every time you're going to work's a night out. and all this sort of stuff, and that creates quite a lot of resentment between especially if you've got a missus or a fella. That's what that created quite a lot of resentment there. So I'm now only getting that back. But I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in the going to work and assuming it's a night out. And a few tips that I would have for anybody who feels like they're drinking too much or doing it whatever. Try a bit of a different routine when you're going into if you're always in the same venue and you always drink when you're in a venue and you always go up this way, up the stairs, go up a different set of stairs, try and just change wee small habits and then you automatically look at the night a bit different. And that's just that's what's going to be working for me, mate. It's making small changes to your routine.
Yes,
and then all that up.
I guess it is obviously by definition, I guess the addictive side of it, it's just a very habitual thing, right? So you just get to the venue, you set up, you have your first drink while the place is warming up, then you have the second drink when that's done, then another DJ comes up to say hello with a drink and there's a shot, and then it's just kind of... Yeah. And that's just a nightly routine, isn't it? Because there's so many people saying to you, do you want a drink? And eventually... you say yes, and then you say no, and then eventually you say yes to every single person, and you end up, you're loaded. And it really is just habit, mate. Some people would say, you're born an addict and stuff like that. I don't really know the answer to that, but I do know that DJs, as we are, we're pretty intense about things which you love. You had a conversation the other week about Clubhouse. You're sitting on Clubhouse for 10 minutes and next thing you've lost 2 hours. Because 6 hours more like.
Yeah, you see, because we don't normally do things by half. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And for me, that's, I took that in the, drink and drugs as well. But...
I think, I'll be honest, bro, I think I have similar traits because I have what would be classed, I guess, as an addictive personality. Yeah. And by that, I mean, like, when I was younger, I started smoking, just cigarettes, cigarettes. And then that was just me then. I was, from about age 11 till I was 21, I smoked cigarettes. And the only thing that got me to stop smoking cigarettes was that I started boxing. Yes. And... at 21, I started boxing, and after 2 sessions, I got addicted to boxing. Which sounds like a real silly thing to say, but it's not at all. It was the fitness journey, and I was a bit of a scrapper when I was younger anyway. So the fact that I'm now allowed to fight in a controlled environment, and not only that, people know how to fight there, so it's even more exciting. Do you know what I mean? It's like I got addicted to boxing, but I realised I couldn't smoke and box. Because my first sparring sessions, bro, I lasted 30 seconds before I could barely even hold my hands up because my lungs were that dead through smoking. So I just literally there and then, the next day, I didn't smoke anymore. And it was as easy to just give up straight away. But then I've found I'm very habitual with things, and I have found along the way, I'll pick up habits or routines or certain things, even certain food items. I can't even think off the top of my head. But certain food items that I would just, I'm just going to eat that now. And I would just overindulge on certain
Well, that's the thing. If I would tend to, especially when you're talking about food. Yeah. When it comes to like a bar of chocolate or, I don't think I've ever went to the cupboard and lifted one biscuit.
Exactly. But bar of chocolate's a really good example. I got into a routine where I would leave my house driving to a gig, and obviously, as you mentioned, I used to do the mileage to all my different my closest residency was 50 miles from my house. That was the closest one. I'd pull up in the nearest garage every time. So I'm DJing 5 nights a week. Every night, pull up in the nearest garage, get a coffee and 2 chocolate bars, and boom, hit the road. And even if I'd pull up, I just had a coffee at home, but I don't want a coffee to drive with, but I'm buying one anyway. I'm buying a coffee and I'm getting my 2 chocolate bars, 2 for £1.50, and I'm just going to box them off in the car. Do you know what I mean? And it's just those habits I got into so easily and so quickly. And I only managed to break them through another habit. I broke the chocolate bar thing because I became vegan. I turned vegan, and so I can't eat chocolate anymore. So I don't eat chocolate anymore. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but I still rinse coffee, bruv. Like, I think you saw me. You saw me drinking a cup at the start of this.
It's like an accepted. It's like an accepted addiction. You know.
Yeah.
But again, I'm saying that I'm not against anybody with any addictions, mate. It's just that I have my experience. I've got certain experiences with them. But see, but like, it is. You know, we're creatures of habit. You know, like, you know, we've had a conversation, and like, you know, even you said your wee man's a creature of habit and stuff as well, at an early age.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's literally just a case of, one thing I realized about myself was I really don't like change. You know, I don't want to admit it. I didn't want to admit it at the time.
Yeah.
But whenever, especially in that really intense rehab scenario, like, small changes were sent, like, they weren't sent me crazy or anything. You know, I was already pretty crazy, but they literally, you know, I was able to see that how much they impacted me and my mood and how I was getting on with other people and stuff, mate. So
yeah.
You know, whenever you say you're able to change from, you were able to put your energy from smoking and you were able to channel it straight into boxing.
Yeah.
It's a good, you know, it's a good thing if you're, let's use the whole fitness thing for an example. You know, if anybody's like me, I would have had a load of binges on whatever, and then started eventually when, like, right, I'm going on a health kick here, and I would have went hell for leather at the training, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, within 2 weeks I'm going twice a day.
Right.
And then you know, it's short lived, and then I moved back. You know, so it's just about trying to channel your energy and create different routines, mate. And you know, I think this has been the lockdown has been, it's been shit for a lot of people, but I have been open and honest and talked about it. Like, for me, I've used it to build myself, but at the same time, it's helped me with, you know, I've had to learn how to budget.
Right.
I've had to learn how to organize finances. I've had to learn how to say no to people. I've had to learn how to, like, you know, prioritize my health over doing things that I want, you know, obviously, because we can't go out at times. You know, and we sometimes we want to, but we can't, you know. It's so there are sort of small and maybe more personal wins that quite a lot of people have made, you know, over these, you know, these trying and testing times, mate. But but at the same time, quite a lot of people have probably done what I did the first time and used it and seen it as like a holiday, like a summer holiday or something, you know, where they haven't got to go to work tomorrow, so having a drink on a Tuesday night,
it doesn't matter. I'm going to stay up, Netflix and rum.
That's it, mate.
Doesn't you know? I'm still here at 1 a.m. Doesn't matter. I've got no work tomorrow. Yeah, and I think, like, a lot of people could and probably have created bad habits, and especially people that maybe, especially DJs that maybe might have been heavy drinkers during their sets. It could be a lot worse for them now. They might be drinking a lot worse because you've been through it, and looking back now, you're able to pinpoint certain things. And I'm thinking of this to approach this from like a giving tips and advice point,
right?
Like perspective. What are like the warning signs that you would say to look out for, just from going from being a casual drinker, where like, okay, I'm having one drink every night in the club, to now you're an alcoholic? Like, what, in your opinion, in your experience, what's the stages there, and what can people look out for, the warning signs?
Well, from my experience, because it's all I can speak for, and that's what we're taught is, mate, see, whenever you start being sort of more angry, more aggressive, more moody or something like that, you know, what I found was, for quite a lot of the time, I blamed everybody else on what was going on. In my opinion, everyone else just wanted me to not have a good time. That, you know, people were reaching out to me, and now I'm looking back going, these people really looked out for me, you know, and they were trying their best, but I was just pushing everybody away.
Right.
What it tends to do is, the warning signs are, you tend to isolate yourself a bit more. So if you find, you know, maybe this podcast isn't where you're going to hear the first, you know, information to get, you know, how you're going to go and get clean, but it might be if you find you're isolating yourself a bit more. Even at the minute, we have to isolate ourselves, but you don't need to be isolated. You can still be talking to people, you know. Of course, obviously, if you find what I found was, with the drinking, it got earlier and earlier and earlier in the day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was times whenever if I went to bed, I was getting up the next day and starting again. And I was telling myself that was okay to do.
And what time of day was that?
That was first thing in the morning, mate.
So like 9 o'clock, you're up in the morning, and so like, what are you drinking at that time of day?
To be honest, mate, it was whatever.
Right, so whatever was in the house, like...
So, we had whatever was there. You know, a lot of the time for me, I wasn't going to bed till it was all done. You know.
Oh, wow! So there's a bottle of vodka in the house, and it's bedtime when it's empty, basically.
Yeah. That, you know, a couple of, you know, not all the time, but that, you know, once, because for me, you know, drinking was a thing which came with the drug use, mate. You know, they do go hand in hand, but it was, I suppose, it's hard to tell which one was worse, but you know, I think it was the drugs that were worse, because they were with me all the time. I was at my worst. I was using it quite a lot, mate.
Right.
And from that, you know, you start to distance yourself from your friends, your family. You know, you start to gain quite a lot of resentments towards people. You know, you don't want to answer your phone and things like that. You know, so they're all signs which are, you know, a lot of people. Again, I don't want this to sound any way insensitive or anything, but a lot of people are confusing drug and alcohol dependence with mental health issues.
Right.
You know, a lot, you know, if you have a massive bender, you know, a session at the weekend, it's, you know, come Monday, if you feel down, yes, that's going to happen. And it tends to, you know, so one of the things you can look out for is if it's getting less and less time in between your using times or your sessions, you know what I mean?
Right,
like, you know, or like I said, if you're drinking earlier in the day and trying to make it seem like it's okay, that they were real red flags to my friends and family.
Mm-hmm. But at the time, were you just oblivious to them? It was kind of just whatever.
Like, that's the thing. I was in the insanity that I thought that this. I was actually, my missus will hear this, and you know, she knows that I was actually trying to make people feel that this was normal. Right. You know, and I would have had arguments with people saying, "Oh, why? You know, just do it. You know, this is normal. Well, you know, if I'm having a beer with my breakfast, I'm off today." You know, it's mental, but that's the you know, you are, you know, technically. Whenever you delve into the whole addiction thing, it is based around insanity, because and because what you're trying to do is you're not happy and you want to try and stop, but you're not doing anything different to change it, you know. So that's that whole that's that whole thing that people say. Einstein says, you know, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Different results. Yeah.
So like, I would have actually tried to tell people that, you know, they were wrong, and I assumed that everybody had it in for me, mate, but really everybody was really looking out for me. Mm-hmm. And now I'm actually, you know, I'm speaking to my friends and stuff, and I'm actually bringing it up in conversation and letting people know that the thing is, there is a lot of help out there. There's an awful lot of help out there for, you know, if you actually look for it. What I realized that for me at the start, I wasn't actually ready to get it until, I had to go to like a rock bottom to realize that, I don't need this. And see, again, it's, I don't really want to tell any more war stories, because it seems like it, everybody has their own issues. Everybody has their own rock bottom. Everybody has their own idea of what they can't do anymore. And for me, the thing is, I look back at that now and go, I don't need to do that anymore.
Right,
I actually don't need to drink or take drugs anymore. And one of the things which I thought that life was going to be boring, it's not. It's awesome.
Right.
Because I'm actually realizing, like, I was numbing a lot of feelings and stuff. So you actually, the whole way, I used the analogy of the jigsaw. Whenever I was going through rehab, each day I was getting sober under my belt. I was picking a piece of the jigsaw up and putting it back in. And one of the things that's really got me and I've sort of went off the topic as far as DJing goes, but I think it's a pretty important one. If anybody,
most definitely, man. No, keep going.
If anybody's sitting in a zone right now where they feel that they're, one of the things which got me the most was I knew that I could actually be a good person, and I wasn't fulfilling my potential.
Right.
And that was I wasn't putting as much work into DJing, and I've done it for so long that I was able to autopilot, and not autopilot. I was able to go in and still smash places down, and hide the fact that I had this addiction. Not hide that I had the addiction, because people aren't silly, but I was able to hide and mask how, the pain that it was causing me,
right,
emotionally. But see now, mate, after going to and doing a bit of AA and and working with other people, and do you know what it's all about, mate? People need to realize that you don't need to do any of it alone.
Right.
You don't, a problem, like, honestly, you see, whenever you tell, in any situation, whether it's drink or drugs or anything at all, something which you've been hiding, see, once you tell people, you feel better. And automatically, once you start opening up and being honest, honesty is one of the let's say, a medicine for this. You be honest, you try and live a bit of an honest life, and try and actually. I've actually started, I've completely changed, but I've changed back to the person that I was before. I've changed back to the best version of me. And now the fact that I'm going to go back to DJing, I can't wait. I'm not afraid of going back into the club environment, because I know that I don't need any drink or drugs to have a good time. Or
are you nervous about that though? Because it might be it's a case of like literally everybody around you, especially the first few sets out of lockdown, it's going to be a celebration. And traditionally, the celebration includes alcohol.
Yep.
So, and even in the case of like, there might be people that know you but not really know you. So they might be in the club, or they might see you partying somewhere and be like, "Oh, do you want some of this as well?" Like, are you nervous about any of that stuff?
I think, there is a. It's more. That's more like a fear of the unknown. What's going to happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Realistically, mate, if I start to worry about that now, as it gets closer, it'll become a bigger thing in my head.
Right.
So what I just have to take one day at a time and see, like doing this, doing my own podcast, doing a few videos. I'm really putting it out there, the journey I'm on, and not the journey, but like what I'm doing now. So it's not, and I'm doing that again so that people know. A lot of people are, because of how I've been getting on, how I've been handling, and because I'm actually openly talking about this and trying to, I'm trying to let as many people know. This is a safety net for me, so that whenever it does come back in, that the likelihood of people asking me, or the likelihood of people coming across to ask me who don't actually know that I'm in recovery, it's not as high. But yes, mate, exactly. I do have questions, and like, how will that go? How will I be able to cope with it? But that's what built, spending this length of time sober now.
You'll have days under your belt at least. It won't be brand new.
I've got time under my belt, and I realise that once I do, if I'm tempted like that, I've got a few relapse prevention things which I know I can do, and I stay connected to. I'm really, really connected to other people who are in recovery too, and that seems to be the best way. So that's a way that in recovery you talk to other people who are going through the same stuff, or they're further in.
Right.
And I think that should be universal, not necessarily just about alcohol or drugs. You know what I mean? Everybody, we live on the same planet. Yes, we're different.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of similar experiences, and people don't necessarily know that because we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? It's just, that's why it's great listening to this podcast, because DJs are coming on and they're talking about issues. You're coming on and you're talking about issues of maybe insecurity and things like that, about, whenever you play a track and it doesn't work,
happens to everyone, bruv.
That's me. But you don't. But there and then, whenever it doesn't work, you don't turn around and say to someone, "That really didn't work." You put your head down and you pretend nothing happened. You know what I mean? So we need to just. It's really. I think DJs are just in a really, especially with booze, and and drugs as well. It can go hand in hand, but it doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, sure, Dubs, you didn't drink for a good while, or sure you didn't?
No, you know what it was? There was a period, basically most of my 20s, and the only times when I would really get, like, I did a few seasons abroad. I did a couple of years in Kos in Greece.
Okay.
And I did a season in Ayia Napa as well. Season in Ayia Napa, I stayed completely sober.
No way.
Yeah, I did.
If it's
actually, that might have been a lie. I'm just trying to think. No, I'm pretty sure I did.
The fact that you even thought you did, that's unbelievable. Like,
because I was really focused in Ayia Napa. That was a really pinnacle year for me. So I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to it. Someone's going to come up with a video or a picture or something that shows me like absolutely twisted now. But yeah, I mean, so what years was it? 2008 was the first year I did in Kos in Greece. And yeah, the whole summer, absolutely wrecked, like smashed, drinking every single night. I'm playing out 7 nights a week. I was drinking 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
But that was because I was abroad, and it was a summer thing, and it was a worker thing. Do you know what I mean? That was several years in a row. I'd go and do summers like that. But back in the UK, I'd have I'd have my business head on, basically, and I was driving a lot of places as well. I'd never drink and drive. So yeah, in the UK I wouldn't drink, but when I was abroad, I'd get drunk. Wouldn't be a problem to me.
Yeah.
But there was never actually a point, going back to what I was saying earlier about having an addictive personality, there was never a point where I was dependent on alcohol. And I deliberately avoided drugs for that very same reason. Because I've never done drugs. Like, plants not included, because plants are not drugs. Just going to put that one out there.
That's different.
But no, never done any Class A drugs in my life, and the reason for that is because I'm like, I don't want to wake the monster. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that would be so sick. It would be such a good time that I'm like, cool, let's get lit now. But it's Wednesday afternoon, bro. What are you doing? Like, I don't care. Feed me, like, and that would be. I'm afraid of that happening to me because I've spent so long focusing on the business side of what I want to do in the UK, which is why I wasn't out getting drunk in the clubs and stuff. And then, so I've never done that. I wanted to know from you, like, is there any moment that you can pinpoint where it changed from just casual drinking in the clubs to being an alcoholic and DJing, basically?
Mate, see, to be honest, this is the God's honest truth. I didn't think I was an alcoholic until I was in rehab.
Right. So last year, basically.
Yeah, like 6 months, like 7 months ago. And it's whenever I was going through, I just thought, I never thought that it was an addiction because drinking's legal. You know what I mean? And
everyone does it all the time. Like
that's it, you know. And the thing about it is, because of likes of Facebook, Instagram, all the different socials, you know, you got so many people on there. At one time, there's always someone drinking. You know, so it can seem normal at any time to have a drink because someone's putting up a picture with a drink. So, but the thing is, whenever I was actually, you know, because the process of going into rehab is, you know, people can say you're going to rehab or force you, or you know, but you have to make the call. You know, I have to ring up and tell them what I'm into and what my, you know. And one of the things they ask is, you know, I went all guns blazing talking about the drug use, and then they said, and what about drinking? And I sort of thought, no, well, drinking's all right, you know, but it wasn't at all, you know. You know, but so again, I think that what it is, there isn't a specific time because it was over such a long period and it was just general progression. So. I tend to push the boat out. I bet whenever I'm, you know, I'll always have one more. I'll always, you know, I always try and you know, do a bit more. And it just gradually built up. And you know, I'm so lucky that I didn't lose everything. You know, I'm lucky I didn't lose my work, my career. You know, there probably were a few nights where there, you know, that has happened. You know, I haven't done gigs again, maybe because of ways I've been. You know, I don't know, I haven't been told directly, but there, you know, there could be a chance that could be a reason I haven't done gigs in certain venues far away. Or, you know, just my family, you know, could have really, you know, been like, see you later, mate. You know, just for the way, you know, because the way you do treat them whenever you're in active addiction. And, you know, because people, you don't realize it's a really selfish thing. You know, you don't realize.
I've heard that,
Yeah, it's a really selfish thing. And because my mind tells me that I don't want, or my mind told me that I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything. You know, what I'm doing is I'm doing it out of the way. And that's the reason I'm telling the lies about it, because I don't want to hurt anybody. But yet, whenever people find out, they're raging and they're really pissed off, and so you know, you don't realize the damage you're doing to everybody else, mate. You know, so whenever I started to realize this, that's whenever I was like, you know, I need to stop this. There isn't one pinpoint moment, but if I hadn't have went into rehab whenever it did, you know, it probably would have got a whole lot worse. And it was pretty bad at the time. So once I went in and I just dedicated myself to the program and to, you know, the work that I was in, and threw myself into everything, like I would, same way I did with drinking drugs, threw myself in, same way I did with music, throw it in, gym, throw yourself in. So I went in here and I channeled the energy that I would have put into everything else, into getting better, because I knew it was a good opportunity for me. And here we go. Here I am, mate. It worked. And,
it's fantastic, bro.
Yeah, it's
congratulations, man. Like, it's it must be such a difficult journey. And again, I feel like going back to the conversation we've had about people that have never had mental health issues, not understanding the difficulty of having mental health issues. In the same way, like, I don't think I can really fathom the difficulty in that choice.
Well, to be honest, we had a couple of conversations before, and, you know, I was asking you, because you guys had talked about different therapy and stuff. Do you remember I'd asked you about...
Yeah.
It was about a couple of different... I think, was it hypnotherapy? Or,
the hypnotherapy was the thing that I did for the anxiety,
And that was well before I went into rehab, you know, so I was trying to do things right the way along, mate, and it just wasn't working. So, yeah, because I know you had asked... and, you know what... Credit to you, you know, you were going to come and see me whenever I was actually over there, remember, in the rehab place, but obviously COVID had struck. That was one tough thing. Normally in treatment centres, your family can come and see you at the weekends or something like that, you know, but obviously there was none of that. And the first week you actually had to spend in isolation, which wasn't ideal.
Oh, wow. So it's out of your comfort zone into a brand new place and on your own for a week. Yeah.
On your own for a week.
Oh, wow.
But it was, you know, but again, I've said it jokingly and stuff, but I would go back again. I would go again, even when I'm, you know, I won't, but I've recommended it to so many people because I realized it taught me so much about myself. It taught me that I don't need to, you know, change is fine. And you know, essentially, I don't need to be in control all the time. You know what I mean? You need to just try and, that's one of the things, mate. We need to try and declutter our minds quite a bit, you know, because if you feel you can control everybody else's behavior and stuff, you know, you live a pretty unhappy life, mate. And it's about one thing that I learned to keep my side of the street clean. So I'm completely powerless over how other people react to certain things. Whereas before, I probably would have got annoyed about things or hung up or whatever. But essentially, as long as, you know, that happens, you know. But mate, look, it was a great experience. And just for anybody who's listening right now and you're considering, you know, anything that I've said, if it's rung any sort of bells to you, it's probably not a bad idea to not necessarily throw yourself into rehab or something. But if you do, you know, put it this way: if you feel that you might be overindulging, if you feel you might be overindulging in something, or it may be having some sort of effect on you, or you think it could down the line, try and stop. And if you try and stop and you can't stop, then there's help for you.
There's a problem there.
Do you know what I mean? So it's really just a case of real, you know, ask yourself the questions: are you being the person that you want to be? And if the answer is no, then I suppose it's anything in life you can work at it.
Is it something that, and let's just say using alcoholism as the example, an alcoholic person, is it something that only they can figure out if they're an alcoholic or not? Or is it something that if there's another DJ who is in exactly the same boat as you, used to love to have a drink when he sets, and now lockdowns happened, might as well have one at 7 p.m, might as well have one at 6, dinner's at 5, I might as well have one at 5, I just have one with lunch because I'm not working. Do you know what I mean? And it spirals. Yeah. Is it something that they could approach their partners or their girlfriends or their wives? Is that how can it work that way and be like, look, do you think I have a problem? Like,
yes, that's generally how, you know, that's the hardest thing. So if you're having that sort of issue, you can approach people in AA, you can approach people in different, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. It's a really good time to do that because it's all on Zoom. So you don't actually need to actually go and meet anybody, you know. But, So, or you can ask if you don't, you know, because a lot of people don't want to, you know, they're maybe doing it in secret or not letting on as much as they're drinking and stuff like that. You know, maybe you don't feel like you can tell your partner or whatever. You know, you can go to your GP, or you know, there's different helplines or stuff. Or again, I don't see if anybody feels like they're having this, mate. I don't. I've just telling people, ask me. I can give you any advice or direct you. But what a counselor once told me was, look, how do you take a power out of a secret? You just tell someone. You know, if you're using
that's so simple, but it's like, oh yeah.
Do you know? Really so if you tell someone who you think, you know, it might be uncomfortable, but no one who, you know, in my experience, asking for help, nobody's ever went fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, it's completely normal to ask for help, you know, because essentially, you know, we do it the whole way through school. We do it the whole way through, you know, whether you're university or not, you know, it's just at one point in our adult life, you just stop asking for help and you're sort of left on your own. But it doesn't need to be like that, mate. You know, you can, you know, there's help out there for everybody who needs it. And it's, do you know what, mate? It opens up a whole different world again, you know, because like you said, can you decide if you're an alcoholic or not? That's why I said, if you feel like you're overindulging, try and stop. If you can't stop, then you know there's something going on. Because alcoholics or addicts are a wee bit different, you know, because I used to see people having a drink and they would have went out and had 3 or 4 drinks and I was going, how are they doing that? You know? They just have like a couple and then they're done. But I would have disguised that as saying they're crazy. You know, I don't like doing that. But then I looked into it and I was like, I couldn't, essentially. It's not I couldn't. Well, no, it is. It's completely that I couldn't do that. You know, once I have 1 or 2, I'm off to the races. Right. And that's, you know what, mate, it's actually realising that. It's been like completely freeing. Mm-hmm. Because I know that if I do it, it ends one way. And,
just in a
it's real. So
going off the rails, I guess.
Do you know what I mean? So I've realised that, and that, you know, being able to live that way it's pretty nice, mate. But the whole addiction thing, it's a real taboo. It is. It's no doubt about it. Especially, you know, nobody likes talking about it. No, because it almost seems like you're. You know, I think a lot of people look at it and see it possibly as like almost like a weakness. Or but
you know what I think it is with the alcohol. Sorry to cut you, bro.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing I think it is with the alcohol though is because as English people, as British people, it's part of the culture.
It is.
And especially actually, you know what? I can expand it. Not even as British people. In the nightlife industry as well. I remember one particular time I actually did a deal with a club owner in Greece. We locked something quite important in, and the way we sealed the deal was with shots. He was like, right, okay, cool, business is done. Like, this was custom for them. It was like, business is done, so now we drink. It was like we drink to it was like that was exactly it, bro. There wasn't any like at this stage, there wasn't any major contracts. It was like, right, okay, this is how we seal the deal. Let's get the shots. And he's handing me shots, like boom, boom, like, and so it's normalized in the culture normalized in British culture because it's like, well, let's go to the pub and Friday after work, let's go to the pub.
A lot of people are even brought up. It's not so much a thing that younger ones are brought to pubs and stuff over here, to my knowledge. But I know from being because I actually did my treatment and stuff there, I know it's quite a culture for young ones being around pubs and stuff, even in England, you know, with their family, not necessarily just roaming about, but you know what I mean? Like
100%.
There are pub cultures, you know, and once you start to realise it is almost everywhere, you know, and people are, cheers with a glass. It's always a glass of champagne, or you know, whenever people arrive at someone's house, especially in like an older film, whatever, the first thing you see is, "Oh, do you want a drink?" You know, it's not necessarily like this strange thing that you have that nobody else has if you drink loads, because you have to realize it's, you know, alcohol is a massive part of our culture. You know,
huge,
and even, you know, from this, you know, the student culture and stuff. Whenever, you know, drinks, you can get it really cheap as well.
Yeah, ridiculously cheap at the student nights now as well.
Exactly, and if you're a DJ for free, a lot of the time, you know, so it's hard not to indulge in that. But you do really just kind of need to know. You know, what I would recommend is pick your nights. And once if you decide, yes, if it's a big birthday or something like that, but if you're starting to pick some random person, oh, it's their birthday, I'm going to have a drink. Someone who you don't even speak to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, one thing which I was told by the counselor, was, make the decision before you leave your house what you're going to do. because what some DJs will drive to a gig and, might even drive home if they have a drink, or else they might leave their car there and then you'll get it the next day or something like that. Make the decision before you leave the house if you're going to have a drink or not, and if you are, don't bring a car, obviously, but it means that you're having a drink. You're not going to be in a mental battle with yourself going, should I, should I not? And eventually, if the drink wins and you have the car, you get this doubt in your head because you have overruled your initial thought, and you go, flip, you end up not even valuing your own opinion at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, definitely, man.
Sorry, I just went into one there, buddy.
No, it's good. It's you know what? This is the only person I've ever heard speak about being a drug addict or an alcoholic in public is Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only person I've ever heard. And one thing he says, and I've never been able to figure out if he's joking or not, but he says that he can't do drugs again, not even once, and he cannot have a drink again, because if he does, the monster comes out, basically. And he's
That's
like, I can't remember what he said, but it was like, if it will end in orgies and fucking drug fests with like 50 people there, like, he says all sorts will happen.
He said that's actually because the way I'll just go into it because you've asked. There is a bit of a science behind it, and with alcoholics or addicts, is you have, like, they call it an obsession of the mind, which means you think about it a lot up to the point where you actually do it, and once you do it, and it sets off like an allergy, and it's like it creates craving, and you need you need another one. So it literally is that once you have one, there's always the best intention. I'll have this one, and then I'll maybe have another one. And then after that, it's another one, and it spirals. I actually, funny you should mention Russell Brand. I actually done a Zoom meeting. It was an AA meeting a couple of weeks back, and Russell Brand did the talk about it. Okay, and wow. He's actually 18 years clean now.
Right, yeah. I knew it was a very long time for him.
18 years on that, but that he's just an example of what it can. Now, he was really bad. I think he was almost addicted to everything.
He was a heroin addict, wasn't he? Like, he was, like, I've heard him tell stories, even just in his stand-up. The great thing about him is he can talk about a lot of his past, even the dark parts of his past. He incorporates it into his comedy.
He makes it hilarious.
But he gets these incredible messages across.
Yeah.
But entertains at the same time, which I think he's got an incredible talent to do that. But yeah, I remember him talking about, like, doing heroin and then sniffing some ket and then all sorts of fucking crazy stuff.
I think it's probably the same thing I seen. He said there's nothing that he can't turn into heroin. Do you know? So it's like do you know what I mean? Like, so chocolate, he can abuse chocolate like it's heroin, you know what I mean? But just so he gets, he has such an addictive personality. But mate, there's more and more, like I said, there's more and more people out there who are suffering stuff like this, and they just haven't admitted it because it does end up isolating you. And especially for DJs, it's already a very isolated job. One thing you need to point out is, I don't need to point out, but to everybody who listens that isn't a DJ, DJing's the loneliest job in the world because you're standing, you're standing in the one spot for 4 hours. Yes, your friends might be there, but your friends are somewhere else that you can't be having a good time. And you're standing there by yourself, and you get approached by a few people, yes, but they always ask the same question. It's not like they're coming to ask you how you are. Do you know what I mean? So it is. I find it is very lonely, and then you're leaving places and you're by yourself. It's the best job in the world, don't get me wrong, but there are downsides to it, mate. And the loneliness thing. So that kind of plays into the alcoholism and drug addiction because they end up being very lonely illnesses, because at the end you don't want other people to see how bad it's got or how much you're using, and that happens over time because people actually, what you'll find is you'll actually start separating yourself from people who aren't drinking as much as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, and that was my experience, you know. And you know, it does end up, you do it by yourself.
Yeah, I guess even the heavy drinkers that aren't quite alcoholics, but they're still heavy drinkers, you just leave them behind because they're not drinking at lunchtime or they're not drinking in the morning now. And yeah,
that's it. So that's the way, you know, and obviously because you're working in somewhere that actually makes all its money and its sole focus is selling drinks.
Yeah, that's the purpose, isn't it? Yeah, literally, that's the purpose.
That's it.
Get people's money, and in return they get drunk. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it is a minefield, but it doesn't need to be. You know, if anybody is suffering in a certain way, in any way which I've sort of explained, then of course, you know, there is help out there, and I'm testament to it. You know, I've got it, and I've changed my life around, and I'm now ready to move on and. You know, still playing music. I'm still able to. You know, one of the things that a guy said to me whenever I was in rehab, I said to him, "I'm worried about not being able to DJ again." And he said, "Johnny, it's not the DJing that's making you drink. You know, because it's whenever I started, I wasn't drinking heavily DJing.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, it made it a bit more miserable for me towards the end, probably because you know I was using too much, I was drinking and all too much." And it does tend to numb you, and you don't get the highs from the actual just the crowd reaction and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. So, mate, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to drugs and alcohol, and but it's really just about, you know, you have to realize that if you can't stop, there's help out there, and all the shit feelings that you get from it.
Yeah.
All the shit feelings that you get after a full session aren't necessarily feelings that are just based on the session. You know, it's you starting to, because you do, you know, with a bad hangover, people wake up and you're worrying about what you've did and stuff like that. There, you know, there's a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's me definitely. Like, oh shit, what did I do last night? Fuck's sake.
You know, people are saying, "Oh, you played this song twice?" I get that joke all the time. You know, one or two of my mates in particular, they know it winds me up. So if I was drinking that night, they'd be like, "You played this song 3-4 times." And I still have to go into my Serato to check to make sure that it didn't do it. Yeah. You know, it's not a nice place to be.
Yeah, no, I've definitely been there with the checking Serato the next day to see what I played because I have no recollection of the set. I've been there. I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
No, it's, you know what, it's admirable, man, and thank you so much for like sharing your journey because it's a tough journey to go through, and it's not, especially to share in public, man. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. But the hope is that if one person can hear this and actually like realize, oh yeah, I might have an issue, and now I know it's not just my issue. Other people have to have that too, and I know how to deal with it. Like,
well, mate, just reaches one person. That's the actual, you know, that's the main thing, you know. See, once you get into Alcoholics Anonymous or you get into any of the other sort of groups or whatever, every single one of them is based around helping everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And it big can support network, right?
It can be used. It can be used in day-to-day life, you know. And I think, you know, you feel better. See, if you're not alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, you know, if you're just a DJ, you feel better if you're helping other people or you're being, you know what I mean? You get a feeling from helping other people that, you know, you can't get from anywhere else, mate. And I think that's something which it does, you know, like you mentioned, there might be a few areas where DJing is a competition. And I think everybody needs to just try and not be insecure about what they're doing and just actually try and, if you just beg, you know, if you see something that's good, tell them it was good. You know,
100%.
You know, be honest about, you know, because it's being open and honest and showing that, you know, you're impressed by something or, you know, you wish you could do something. You know, I mean, so what? You learn if you see someone else doing something that you can't do, just learn to do it. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
As simple as it sounds, that's the solution.
Don't get pissed off it's because somebody else, or if there's like clicks and stuff, there might be obviously there's some serious beefs go about, like, but don't be annoyed at someone because they can do something you can't. Just learn to do it.
This is the thing as well, because again, going back full circle to what we were saying earlier, you're just seeing the finished product. You're just seeing the routine that they put on Instagram, or you're just in the club hearing what they're doing in the club there and then. You're not seeing the years of graft and practice that that one thing that you're hearing might take 10 years to perfect for them.
Yeah, mate,
because it's the first time you're hearing it, you're like, oh, they put this.
The perfect example is you've had him on the Don Andy P. His videos. Every now and again he puts a video up of him losing his mind because he's been trying to perfect this one thing a load of times. And, I'm not saying Andy does, I can imagine Andy would nail most things all the time, but it shows you everybody has to put work into practice. It's as much as people want to make it look as if as soon as you press play, what they hear is exactly what happens. It's not reality, because,
not at all.
But mate, that's pretty much, I can't even remember what you said there before that, but I remember it is really just a case of you just have to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a broad enough comment for me to throw in there so people know. Be honest with yourself, guys.
Doesn't matter what we're talking about, but the point is, the main point is of everything is be honest with yourself. No, like
is there any questions which you have about it? Because other people might.
To be honest, all the questions I did have about it, I've asked.
Okay.
And that was anything I've asked you throughout this episode is all questions that I had about it, like how you think you're going to feel getting back into the clubs when everyone's turning up and drinking around you. Excuse me. And just everything I have asked is all the questions that I have about it. But it's again, man, like I'm really appreciative that you're so open to bring your story, especially as it's so fresh as well. This isn't someone it's not Russell Brand who's 18 years sober now. Yeah. This is you, and it's like fresh for you within the last 7 months. 7 months ago you went into rehab, and now you're sitting talking about it and opening up to the whole community about the things that you've been through, how you tackled it, and all the red flags and stuff. And I think it's really this is a really important episode. Do you know what I mean? Like I've got so much respect for you. Obviously, like we're friends anyway, so I had anyway. But I've got so much more respect for you just off of this because of what I can see you are beginning to do now. And I feel like, especially with the podcast you mentioned where you're helping all the local DJs get the motivation back by giving them a platform to put a guest mix on your podcast, that just in turn is helping people get out of whatever rut they might be stuck in. And I feel like you've set yourself on a journey to kind of just help people out of different shit situations, which I think so commendable, man.
Again, mate, there's a lot of feel good stuff for me that comes out of it. I've realized that I've spent so many years being selfish,
right.
And it got me nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially now that I've actually started thinking about other people and any decisions I'm making, I'm thinking who's this decision going to impact, and maybe including them in it, or even just having. I think like it's great that we touched on the mental health thing and all at the minute because it's just so, some people don't know where to turn, mate. And whenever they hear people, just this random dude from Belfast, just a lot of people don't. Most people won't know who I am, but I'm telling them what I've been through. It might prod someone to actually tell someone they know about something. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And again, it's going back to the other stuff you were saying, like even the small trivial things that we talk about here. And other DJs are like, oh shit, everyone else goes through that too.
Yep.
Not realizing like, oh wow, there's other DJs that do, this happens to everybody. I thought it was just me. Yep. And I'm feeling that, I'm hoping that this episode in particular will reach further than the DJ community and actually will resonate with people that might be feeling a certain way. And then this is the thing that makes them realize, you know what, yeah, I have a problem, but I've just listened to this and now I know how I can fix it. And it will move them to take the first steps to fixing things, basically.
Not the, if we can just scrap the whole be honest with yourself, scrap that. What you want to take from this is no matter what you're going through, you don't need to go through it alone. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do it by yourself because, again, trying to fix everything yourself can seem really unmanageable, sometimes if you're in a bad spot. And once you talk about it, you realize that it's not, it's not exactly as bad as it was. So, mate, that's all I can say as far as there's help out there if it's needed. And again, I don't mind just saying it, if anybody just wants to, if anybody approaches you or wants to approach me, feel free, mate, because I'm willing to help people because I've been helped,
Yeah.
And it's
the Talkover Pod Clark DMs are open for anybody that wants to get in touch. If anyone, now's the perfect time. Plug your socials, bro, so that anyone knows where they can find you as well.
My socials, everything is just I am DJ Jon Boi. I am DJ JONBOI, and that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and everything's there. So, yeah, there's also loads of mixes and all there as well. I just don't always talk in case anybody thinking this guy just talks about recovery all the time.
But no, you play music on the podcast as well, don't you? And you said that you've got the guest mixes and that going on. So
that's it, mate. Yeah, and I sort of do exclusives, and I've got quite a lot of nice drops from artists and stuff because I get to play their music first. And you know what, mate? I'm actually pretty proud of it. Eventually it's. It is like it's essentially a radio show, but it's music that you wouldn't necessarily hear on the radio. And I'll do a mix every week, but now there'll also be more content with more DJs coming out and stuff as well. So, yeah, there's plenty going on, plenty keeping me busy, and that's amazing. That's all we can do, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely, man. Well, bro, again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything that you've shared today, because it's not. You make it seem like actually this was a really easy conversation for you to have, but
inside I'm like
But no, I really do appreciate it, man, because like I say, this was, as we were talking about this conversation when we were organising it and setting it up, I said to you, like, I feel like this is a really, really important conversation to have, and yeah, I'm just so grateful for your honesty, man. Really, mate,
I'm grateful to be on, mate. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I'm a big fan of you and Stylist. So, it's great to have a conversation. As you know, whenever you talk to another DJ, it's always good to have a conversation with another DJ because you find out, you're not alone about in all sorts of things. But again, mate, it's just 100%. It's great, that you've given me this platform to even try and create it or spread it, create a wee bit of hope for maybe someone who's struggling a bit.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Well, Jon Boi, thank you so much, bro, again.
No problem at all, mate. Listen, thanks for your time. Thanks for having me on.
All good, man. It's the Talkover Pod Clark, of course. Stylist hopefully will be back next week. My name is DJ Double. This right here, the King of Belfast himself.
Oh, yes.
The King of Belfast, Mr. Believe in Yourself, Mr. Jon Boi. But no, thank you, bro. Thanks, man.
No problem. No, man, that was awesome. Really, really enjoyed that.